The 31st President of the United States, Herbert Hoover, hated poor people. Okay, maybe he didn't hate poor people, but he definitely didn't like randos walking off the street into his living room. And unfortunately for him, an unnamed elderly man from Iowa would do just that. There's no specific date for this story because the actual story wasn't published until 1938 after the head of Secret Service who allowed this to happen died. Apparently late one night, a random elderly fellow carrying a cane and briefcase walked directly up to the north portico and entered through the front door of the White House. It's unclear why the guards, who were definitely there, by the way, didn't say anything or do anything. He wasn't stopped, questioned, or frisked by a single person. Nobody said anything to him, and he walked directly through the front door. Once inside, he, quote, made himself at home, wandering quietly from room to room, examining the pictures and furnishings with lively interest. He essentially gave himself an unrestricted tour of the first floor of the White House, and he quite enjoyed himself doing so. It wasn't until he was leaving the Blue Room that a member of Secret Service finally noticed him and asked him what he was doing. Side note, it's worth mentioning that the Blue Room is only one room out of 8 rooms on the first floor of the White House, which means that this guy could have seen almost the entire floor before anybody said anything to him. I know it was probably different back then, probably a little more lax, but if you were to do something like that today, they'd probably bust out some new experimental weapon and disintegrate you right then and there. It's just crazy to think. When the service agent asked him who he was and what he was doing, he just said he was from Iowa and that he was sightseeing. He said he had been busy with the other monuments during the day, and it took too long to get to the White House, so he just arrived here late. He was frisked, and his briefcase was searched, but all he had were tourist accessories. As most people would react upon finding a total stranger just in their house, President Hoover entered the room and was like, "Oh man, what the fuck, guys? Are we serious? Are we serious? What do I pay you for? Who the hell is this?" He then summoned the Secret Service head of staff, Richard Jervis, and asked him how this happened. And Jervis was like, "Hey man, isn't it not my fault? I mean, the Secret Service only protects the inside. The outside is like for the park police or something." Which was technically true, but it was a horrible excuse. And Hoover was like, I'm changing that bullshit, dude. And he did. He wrote an executive order the very next day, changing the management of the White House guards from the Park Police into the Secret Service. The whole event ended up with 2 policemen and a Secret Service member getting fired. I guess people just loved Herbie so much that they had to see him in person. See, the joke there is that people actually hated Herbert Hoover. Like a lot.